Hello, everyone. Well, to start us off, whenever I was making this lesson, I tried to primarily focus on the fact that these are kids that don't really have a high reading score, so I tried to limit well, I didn't really limit, but I tried to emphasize certain portions of the reading more than I did others, just to try to not overwhelm them, as well as to kind of highlight the important sections of the assignment. My lesson plan overall aimed to help them increase or at least identify the main points of information within the text that was assigned to them. And I wanted both students 1 and 2, or A and B, to be able to identify the way in which the tectonic plates expanded to at least a 75% degree of accuracy. Overall, I think they were able to do well. Student A in particular was able to follow along with the assignment fairly well. He's been diagnosed with multiple disabilities and is well, he has a bit of trouble communicating with others and needs a communication app or text to speech in order to get his points across. I mean, he'll try to communicate with you with gestures and hand movements, but he typically prefers to howl most of the time, and he wouldn't use the app unless prompted to. But overall, I think he was one of my more enthusiastic students for this lesson because he showed interest whenever I was showing them about the boundary movements and, well, explaining how they moved with my hands, and he listened to my explanation and understood how, well, he found it pretty amazing that the plate tectonics caused the Earth to crumble. I assume he has a bit of an interest with the weather, which is fairly good for this lesson. Was enthusiastic about it and made clean cuts whenever he was instructed to cut out the pictures for his graphic organizer. As for student B, he was a bit more difficult to get enthusiastic about the lesson. He wasn't really much of a fan of cutting activities, which caused him to not really follow along very often. He would pay attention to whenever I read out loud to him and showed him shifted the boundaries with hand movements, but whenever it came to the cutting portion, he was a bit uncooperative and even tore up one of our cutout pieces with his bare hands, but no, it was okay. It was just something he wasn't used to. I later found out that he is more of a hand-to-hand style instruction kind of student, so you have to help move his hands towards doing the actual task that he needs to do, and then he'll go on from that. So that's something I definitely want to adapt whenever I create another lesson for him. And also keep that in mind. I didn't use any form of Spanish whenever I was interacting with him because I felt there wasn't a need to, but maybe that might have led to some better cooperation with him. Well, he was capable of following along with the text, so that tells me that he is getting along there. He's also been diagnosed with multiple disabilities, but well, he's working through them and can just take information one step at a time. I assume that is why he got so frustrated, because I was presenting him with a lot of new information and not a lot of time to process it. So maybe I should slow down the next time I try to do a lesson like this. So anyways, moving on to my academic decisions, my instructional decisions, I decided to go with the graphic organizer because I felt it might be the best way in order to, well, reinforce the information to the students in a way that would really catch their attention. Student A in particular was enthusiastic, as I said before, and was willing to participate whenever I asked them to guess how the movement was, or what boundary I was talking about. Based on the movement, I would demonstrate with my hand gestures. Yeah, and I think he definitely would have gotten the 75% degree of accuracy that this lesson aimed for. As for student B, he wouldn't really cooperate with that part, and I'd have to lift up some options for him in order to see what his reaction was, and we would just go with that as his guess. But yeah, I'd ask them questions just to try to associate some of the information while we were reading to see if they had any background knowledge on that. Student A and B were somewhat knowledgeable about volcanoes, but didn't really. Well, no, I suppose they did understand the concept of lava being cooled down by seawater in order to make islands. I will admit that some of the examples I used or read from the book were not very good, so maybe next time I should try to include visuals with that kind of background information as well. I could also stand to maybe show them a short video on boundary movements on the Earth, just to put the whole scale into perspective, to try to encourage more enthusiasm about the topic, perhaps, so that way they may not feel as overwhelmed with the text. Though the video would have to follow along as closely as possible, I feel, because the text would really. Well, the video would mainly be to reinforce the topics that will be discussed within the text, and, well, I want to try to keep them in a headspace that will get them to focus on that topic for a little bit. And, well, that's not to say that they're not focused. It's just that what I think I lacked in this lesson was just an effective hook to get their attention.